First story, Whispering Pines by Sarah Thompson. The winter wind howled through the skeletal branches of the pine trees, and the forest stood silent under its icy grip. I found myself lost in the heart of the Whispering Pines forest, miles away from any sign of civilization. My car had broken down, leaving me stranded in this desolate winter landscape. Panic set in as the temperature dropped and the daylight began to fade. I trudged through knee-deep snow, desperately searching for any semblance of a trail. The haunting whispers of the wind seemed to carry voices, indistinguishable, but filled with an eerie cadence that sent shivers down my spine. The dense woods seemed to close in around me, casting elongated shadows that danced in the moonlight. As I stumbled through the snow, I caught glimpses of distant figures between the trees. At first, I dismissed them as tricks of the imagination, but as I moved deeper into the forest, the figures became more defined. Silhouettes of people, their movements disjointed and unnatural, flickered in and out of view. Fear gnawed at my insides as I pressed on, each step heavier than the last. The forest seemed to warp and twist, playing tricks on my senses. Unearthly lights glowed in the distance, leading me deeper into the labyrinth of trees. The voices in the wind grew louder, a cacophony of unintelligible whispers that echoed through the forest. I stumbled upon a clearing, and there in the midst of the snow stood a dilapidated cabin. Its windows were shattered, and the door hung ajar, swinging eerily in the cold breeze. Cautiously I entered, hoping to find shelter from the encroaching darkness. Inside, the air was thick with an otherworldly stillness. The remnants of a fire smoldered in the hearth, casting flickering shadows on the decaying walls. Odd symbols were etched into the wooden floor, and the air carried the metallic tang of something sinister. I felt an inexplicable compulsion to leave, but my frozen limbs refused to obey. As the temperature inside the cabin plummeted, I heard footsteps approaching from the shadows. Panic surged through me as the figures I had seen in the woods materialized before my eyes. Their faces were distorted, contorted into grotesque masks of despair. They circled me, their whispers growing louder, drowning out the howling of the wind outside. In that chilling moment, I realized I was not alone. The cabin was a portal to something beyond my comprehension, a realm where the boundary between the living and the dead blurred. I closed my eyes, praying that when I opened them again, I would be back in the safety of my car. When I did open my eyes, I found myself standing at the edge of the forest, my car visible in the distance. The Whispering Pines stood silent once more, as if the surreal encounter had never happened. I stumbled back to my car, shaken and disoriented, haunted by the lingering echoes of those ghostly whispers. Second story, Frozen Nightmares by Daniel Kovac. The winter night had cloaked the forest in an impenetrable darkness. I navigated the winding roads of the Blackwood Forest, my breath visible in the frigid air. Snowflakes danced in the headlights of my car, creating an ethereal tapestry as I ventured deeper into the heart of the wilderness. My destination was a remote cabin nestled on the outskirts of a small, forgotten town. The radio crackled with static, the signal weakened by the dense tree cover. An unsettling stillness settled over the landscape, broken only by the muffled crunch of snow beneath my tires. As the miles passed, an ominous feeling gripped me, a sense that something was amiss in the frozen expanse around me. Shadows flitted between the trees, their movements elusive and furtive. I dismissed them as the products of an overactive imagination, a futile attempt to rationalize the unease settling in my stomach. The cabin finally emerged from the darkness, its window aglow with the warm light of a fireplace. Relief washed over me as I parked my car and approached the cabin's wooden door. The crunch of snow beneath my boots echoed in the stillness, a stark contrast to the oppressive silence that enveloped the forest. Inside, The crackling fire cast dancing shadows on the walls. The cabin, though rustic, offered a sanctuary from the harsh winter night. I settled into a worn-out armchair, the creaking of its time-worn frame the only sound in the room. As the fire's warmth enveloped me, I heard a distant howl echoing through the forest. The sound was haunting, carrying a weight of loneliness that sent a shiver down my spine. Unnerved, I dismissed it as the cry of a distant wolf and focused on the crackling flames before me. Hours passed, and the cabin seemed to embrace me in its comforting embrace. Just as I began to succumb to the weariness of my journey, a tapping sound echoed from the window. I peered into the darkness, my breath catching in my throat as I saw a figure standing in the snow, barely visible in the moonlight. The figure's face was obscured by a hood, and its eyes gleamed with an unsettling intensity. Fear surged within me as I realized I was not alone in this desolate place. The tapping continued, each sound resonating with a malevolent rhythm that seemed to penetrate the very walls of the cabin. Summoning my courage, I approached the window, my breath frosting the glass. The figure stared back at me, its gaze unrelenting. Without warning, it spoke in a voice that echoed with a hollow resonance, as if carried by the winter wind itself. "Leave this place," it whispered, the words sending a chill down my spine. "The forest does not welcome outsiders." I stumbled back, my heart pounding in my chest. The cabin's warmth had transformed into a suffocating heat, and the air grew thick with an otherworldly presence. The tapping persisted, now accompanied by a chorus of disembodied whispers that seemed to seep through the very fabric of reality. In that frozen nightmare, I realized the forest held secrets beyond my understanding. The cabin, once a refuge, now felt like a trap, a gateway to a realm where the boundaries between the living and the supernatural blurred. I fled into the night, leaving the cabin and its malevolent whispers behind, haunted by the knowledge that the Blackwood Forest held mysteries too chilling to comprehend. Third story, Winter's Embrace by Emily Harper. The snow-covered landscape stretched endlessly before me as I navigated the winding roads of Wintry Haven National Forest. It was a place of serene beauty, the kind that only winter could conjure. The branches of the towering trees bore the weight of freshly fallen snow, creating an enchanted world that seemed untouched by time. My car trudged through the thick white blanket, the only disturbance in the pristine wilderness. The journey was supposed to be a tranquil escape, a solo retreat to a secluded cabin nestled deep within the heart of the forest. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the landscape, a sense of isolation crept over me. The cabin, a quaint structure of weathered logs, emerged from the trees like a beacon of warmth in the encroaching darkness. I parked my car and approached the inviting glow emanating from the cabin's windows. The air was crisp, and the silence was broken only by the distant hoots of an owl. Inside, the crackling fireplace cast a warm glow over the cozy interior. I settled into a worn leather chair, the soft creaking accompanying my every movement. The solitude of the forest was both comforting and eerie, amplifying the sound of my own breathing in the quiet cabin. As the night deepened, a profound stillness settled over Wintry Haven. I found solace in the embrace of the flickering fire, my thoughts drifting away with the dancing flames. The forest outside seemed to come alive with the subtle whispers of the wind, a gentle reminder of nature's quiet mysteries. Just as I was succumbing to the tranquility, a soft tapping echoed from the door. Startled, I rose from the chair and approached cautiously. The tapping persisted, rhythmic and deliberate, like an insistent heartbeat echoing through the frozen air. Opening the door revealed a figure draped in a tattered cloak, the hood casting a shadow over their face. The stranger spoke with a hushed urgency, revealing eyes that gleamed with an otherworldly intensity. "Listen carefully. The figure whispered, the words carrying a weight that transcended the confines of the cabin. "The forest is alive with secrets, and the winter night reveals truths that remain hidden in the daylight." Intrigued, I allowed the mysterious visitor inside. The air seemed to shift as they crossed the threshold, a subtle change that sent a shiver down my spine. The stranger spoke of ancient rituals performed beneath the snow-laden trees, and the spirits that roamed the Wintry Haven National Forest, guardians of a forgotten realm. As the tale unfolded, the cabin itself seemed to absorb the secrets whispered within its walls. The fire's glow flickered with a newfound intensity, casting shadows that danced with spectral shapes. The stranger's eyes never wavered, their gaze penetrating the veil between reality and the ethereal. Compelled by an inexplicable force, I followed the cloaked figure into the heart of the forest. The snow crunched beneath our feet as we ventured deeper into the night, the moon casting an ethereal glow on the untouched landscape. The whispers of the wind grew louder, a chorus of voices that seemed to harmonize with the beating of my heart. We arrived at a clearing where ancient symbols adorned the ground. The stranger raised their arms, invoking a presence that transcended the boundaries of the mortal world. The air crackled with energy as the forest responded to the ritual, revealing glimpses of shadowy figures moving among the trees. The spirits of Wintry Haven emerged, their forms shifting between the tangible and the ephemeral. They spoke in a chorus of voices, revealing forgotten tales of love and loss, of lives lived and lost beneath the winter's embrace. The forest itself seemed to come alive, every tree pulsating with the energy of untold stories. As the night unfolded, I became part of the ancient dance, my senses attuned to the rhythm of the forest. The spirits whispered their gratitude, their ethereal presence fading as the first light of dawn broke through the trees. The stranger, their task complete, vanished into the fading shadows, leaving me alone in the tranquil clearing. I returned to the cabin, the secrets of Wintry Haven etched into my very soul. The fire, now reduced to smoldering embers, seemed to hold the echoes of the night's revelations. As the first rays of sunlight bathed the forest in a soft glow, I realized that some mysteries are meant to be embraced, even if they remain forever entwined with the enigmatic depths of a winter's night. Fourth story, Veil of Frost by Thomas Mitchell. The Silverwood Forest, blanketed in an icy veil, stretched endlessly in every direction. I found myself on a solo expedition, driving through the labyrinthine roads that wound their way through this enchanted winter wonderland. The air was crisp, and the snow-laden branches creaked under the weight of their frozen burden. My destination was a secluded winter cabin, nestled on the outskirts of the forgotten town of Frostvale. The town, rumored to be haunted by tales of unexplained disappearances, added an extra layer of chill to the already frosty air. The journey had been serene until the forest seemed to shift its contours and the road ahead disappeared into an indistinct whiteness. I navigated cautiously, the world outside my windshield transforming into an opaque sea of white. Panic set in as I realized I had lost my way, the landmarks swallowed by the relentless snowfall. The car's headlights flickered, casting eerie shadows on the snow-covered pines that lined the road. Desperation crept in as I tried to retrace my steps, but the forest seemed to conspire against me. Unfamiliar paths twisted and turned, leading me deeper into the heart of Silverwood. The snowstorm intensified, creating an otherworldly silence broken only by the distant groans of ancient trees. As I pressed on, a flickering light emerged in the distance, a beacon of hope in the midst of the wintry labyrinth. A cabin materialized, its windows aglow with a warm, inviting light. Relieved, I parked my car and approached the shelter, hoping to find respite from the relentless storm. Inside, the cabin exuded a rustic charm, its walls adorned with hunting trophies and faded photographs. A fireplace crackled in the corner, casting a welcoming warmth throughout the room. I settled into a worn armchair, the creaking floorboards echoing in the quiet solitude. The storm outside intensified, the wind howling through the trees in a mournful symphony. As the hours passed, the cabin seemed to come alive with a presence beyond the flickering flames. I dismissed it as my imagination playing tricks on me, but an unsettling feeling lingered in the air. As the clock struck midnight, the temperature inside the cabin plummeted. Frost crept across the windows, creating delicate patterns that seemed to dance in the pale moonlight. The fire, once a source of comfort, waned as if struggling against an unseen force. Creaking floorboards heralded the arrival of an unexpected guest. A figure, clad in layers of frost, stood in the doorway. Their eyes gleamed with an otherworldly light, and their breath hung in the air like a spectral mist. A sense of dread settled over me as I realized I was not alone in this isolated refuge. "Lost soul," the figure spoke, their voice echoing through the cabin. "You have trespassed into the Veil of Frost, where the boundary between the living and the spectral is thin. Few who enter leave unscathed." I questioned the figure, desperate for answers, but their responses were cryptic, spoken in riddles that hinted at a supernatural tapestry woven into the very fabric of the forest. The cabin, it seemed, was a gateway to a realm where the winter's embrace held secrets darker than the shadows cast by the flickering fire. The figure beckoned me outside, and as I stepped into the storm, the world transformed. The Silverwood Forest became an otherworldly landscape, where the boundaries between reality and the supernatural blurred. The trees whispered ancient tales, and spectral figures danced among the snowflakes. I became a reluctant participant in a spectral ballet, the Veil of Frost revealing forgotten stories of love and betrayal. The figure guided me through the ethereal dance, each step leaving imprints on the snow that glowed with an otherworldly luminescence. As dawn approached, the figure led me back to the cabin. The storm outside subsided, and the veil of frost lifted, returning the forest to its serene winter beauty. The figure, their purpose fulfilled, faded into the morning mist, leaving me standing alone in the cabin's threshold. I stumbled back to my car, the memories of the Veil of Frost etched into my very soul. The Silverwood Forest, once a mere backdrop to my journey, had become a realm where the veil between the living and the spectral was thin, and the winter's embrace held secrets too haunting to forget. Fifth story, The Silent Symphony of Winter's Solitude by Eleanor Hayes. The moon hung low in the ink-black sky, casting an ethereal glow on the snow-laden branches that stood like sentinels in the winter night. I navigated the winding roads of Whispering Pines National Forest, the frigid air biting through the layers of my winter coat. The forest seemed to stretch endlessly, a sea of skeletal trees covered in a crystalline coat of frost. My destination was a secluded cabin nestled deep within the heart of the forest, a place of solace I had inherited from my grandmother. The journey had begun as a nostalgic retreat, a desire to reconnect with the memories of winters spent by the crackling fireplace, sipping hot cocoa and listening to the tales of the ancient woods. As I drove deeper into the night, the forest closed in around me, creating an oppressive darkness that swallowed the feeble glow of my headlights. The snow-covered road became treacherous, and my car skidded on the icy surface, veering off into an unfamiliar path. Panic set in as I realized I was lost, the forest claiming me as its unwilling captive. I trudged through the knee-deep snow, the silence of the whispering pines broken only by the distant howls of the wind. The towering trees seemed to lean in, their branches interlocking to create a natural canopy that obscured the night sky. A sense of isolation settled over me, and the crunch of my footsteps echoed in the desolate landscape. The cabin emerged from the darkness like a long-lost friend. Its windows glowed with a warm light, promising refuge from the unforgiving winter night. I hurried inside, desperate to escape the icy grip of the forest. The interior welcomed me with the familiar creaking of the wooden floor, and the fireplace crackled to life as if recognizing my presence. As I settled into the coziness of the cabin, a feeling of unease lingered in the air. The whispering pines seemed to live up to their name, the wind carrying mysterious whispers that seemed to beckon me into the shadows. The walls of the cabin seemed to absorb the tales woven into the fabric of the ancient forest. As the night deepened, a haunting melody drifted through the air, a symphony of unseen instruments playing a silent tune. I dismissed it as a trick of the wind until the music grew more distinct, filling the cabin with an otherworldly resonance. The air itself seemed to vibrate with the spectral notes, creating an atmosphere thick with the weight of the supernatural. Curiosity overcame my trepidation, and I ventured outside to discover the source of the ethereal melody. The forest, bathed in the soft glow of the moon, seemed alive with unseen musicians. The trees themselves seemed to sway to the rhythm, and the snowflakes danced in a synchronized ballet, each movement a part of the silent symphony. I followed the haunting melody deeper into the whispering pines, the forest guiding me with an unseen hand. Shadows flitted between the trees, and the air pulsated with an otherworldly energy. The music intensified, reaching a crescendo that echoed through the ancient woods. In a moonlit clearing, I found myself surrounded by spectral figures, their transparent forms swaying in unison to the ghostly music. The air shimmered with an otherworldly luminescence, and the whispers in the wind transformed into melancholic voices, recounting tales of forgotten love and lost souls. The figures beckoned me to join their spectral dance, and as I did, the barriers between the living and the supernatural dissolved. The forest became a realm where the boundaries of time and space held no sway. I danced with the spirits, my senses attuned to the silent symphony that reverberated through the whispering pines. As dawn painted the sky with hues of pink and gold, the spectral figures faded into the mist, their ethereal dance reaching its conclusion. I stood alone in the clearing, the whispering pines returning to their stoic silence. The cabin, once a refuge from the winter night, now held the echoes of an otherworldly encounter, a tale woven into the fabric of the ancient forest. I returned to the cabin, the memories of the silent symphony etched into my very soul. The whispering pines, once a backdrop to my winter retreat, had become a living entity, a guardian of forgotten tales and spectral melodies. As I left the forest behind, the wind carried a final whisper, a reminder that some secrets are meant to be embraced, even if they remain shrouded in the enigmatic depths of a winter's solitude. Thank you for being with us through these haunting winter tales. The video on your screen is another one of my personal favorites, perfect for those who love a good scare. If you haven't already, hit subscribe and like this video to support more eerie content. Which story gave you the most chills? Let me know in the comments below. Stay tuned for more spine-tingling narratives, and I'll catch you in the next thrilling adventure.